channel spiritual abilities and gifts. Well, you've come to the right place. In this video, I will introduce you to a variety of spiritual abilities and how you can tap into them and what you need to overcome in order for this channel to open up. And if you're new to my orbit, I'm Riya, I'm Starseed and light language activator. I am a channel myself. I channel multiple galactic light languages, but also I hold a specific frequency that activates other people's spiritual abilities, such as psychic abilities, light language abilities, and a variety of others. So I can tell a thing or two about spiritual gifts. So first things first, this entire video is unscripted. I could have prepared, I could have written 3 points about channeling spiritual gifts, but it's the first lesson for you. The real measure of channeling spiritual abilities is trust, is being able to let go of control, let go of feeling self-conscious, let go of feeling perhaps stupid. And this is the beginning of any spiritual abilities. Because when we talk about spiritual abilities, they are outside of this consciousness realm. They come from higher realms. And as such, they are not mainstream. They may start to feel a little bit awkward or weird. And I think the biggest obstacle that I've come across in my students is overcoming the judgmental human nature, which tells you that perhaps it's silly, it makes no sense, who am I to do it, and all of these stories. So number one tip, if you want to channel spiritual gifts and abilities, is to let go of control, especially conscious mind control. So that is step number one in channeling spiritual abilities. Trust and don't control. You see, whatever spiritual ability it is, whether it's channeling, whether it's intuitive reading such as tarot, whether it's Akashic records reading, whether it's light language, it is like a tap that you turn on. And once it's on, please do not try to control the flow of water. Just trust that however it's gonna come, the volume, the intensity, what is in it will be exactly the right thing. And what helps if you are very much in your analytical mind is to express whatever spiritual gift you have without filtering. And then after that, after it's come out loud, in the writing or however, then allow your conscious mind to dissect it. But first, when you are still in this flow, allow yourself to be in this flow. So now the question you may be asking is, well, how do I get there in the first place? How do I untap this spiritual ability that perhaps is in me? Or maybe you're even asking yourself, well, have I even got any spiritual abilities? So I'm here to tell you that every single person on this planet is a spiritual being as well as a material being. So we all have spiritual abilities. Now, what has become almost like acceptable expression of spiritual abilities is not an exhaustive list. So we've got people who are medical intuitive, we've got light language channels, we've got people who channel ascended masters or galactic beings, we've got people who do Reiki, we've got people who do intuitive tarot readings. This is not an exhaustive list. So you may have spiritual abilities that are nothing like what, let's say, the mainstream of spiritual abilities are. So first of all, you need to overcome this perhaps feeling of, well, what if I haven't got any? Trust me, there's something in you which is different to anybody else's. And also trust me that you have multiple spiritual abilities. The only thing standing in the way is step one, possibly the conscious mind control. Now, step two is untapping what is your natural ability. And here is the catch. Because of this kind of realm of 3D where everything needs to be neatly labeled, everything has to be categorized, and because of these even categories of spiritual abilities that we have created, this is where it gets tricky, because there will be a tendency in you to try and compare yourself to other people and to fit your square peg through a round hole. And that's not going to work. And let me tell you my personal story. So I have always been spiritually gifted in light language. Well, maybe not always, but my entire adult life. Since I was in my early 20s, I could channel light language, but I never considered this to be a valuable spiritual ability. Because at that time, and you're talking, nearly 20 years ago, this wasn't a thing. It was something odd, strange, and certainly wasn't considered anything worthwhile. So what did I do? Well, I tried to pursue any visual abilities, because somehow, somewhere, I've heard about, third eye and visions. I was surrounded by psychics, one of them being my own husband, and I always wanted this kind of spiritual ability. So the power to see, the power to predict the future, and in a visual manner. And it was literally like hitting a brick wall over and over and over again. I was doing a guided meditation after a guided meditation. Nothing was sticking. I thought I was broken. And I remember this one morning, I actually was in the shower. I come out of the shower and I say to my husband, I think this spirituality is not for me. All I can do is those stupid light languages. And I said that, stupid light languages. And by the way, that was the very moment when it dawned on me that actually this is my strength, not my weakness. So rather than be trying to become a visionary, I need to lean into what I already have. So I did. I threw the kitchen sink at galactic light languages. I got to know galactic star races without visuals or audio, like literally blindfolded, but still able to sense frequencies. And I stopped doing prolonged guided meditations that will only bring me frustrations. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do what I'm actually good at. And goodness me, this was the key to unlocking the door. So, the light languages grew over and over and over. I was activating one and the other and the other and the other. I was getting understanding, I was getting precision, I was getting more and more feeling whenever I was actually in the presence of energy. And literally, that was my role. So what I would suggest to you is, rather than trying to be like someone else maybe you admire in the spiritual space, you do you. If there is if you've got a hunch, and hunches are, by the way, a spiritual ability. So if you've got a hunch of a spiritual ability that perhaps hasn't been named, maybe this is your thing. So have a think. What is it, that rocks your boat? Do you have dreams that turn into premonitions? Do you have the ability to calm people around you with your mere presence? Perhaps you have a special gift to animals. Well, that is your spiritual gift. So don't try to force yourself, to force your third eye or whatever to open. It will happen on its own timeline. And from my perspective, when I let go, not only has my own main spiritual ability, which is all about audio, all about feeling and sensation, grown, but you know what? I started getting visuals. I am now more visual than I have ever been, because I'm not trying. I let go. I let my stronger spiritual senses take over, but possibly because there is no pressure, now I get visions. So that's step number 2. Don't fit your spiritual gifts through a round hole of other spiritual gifts that doesn't fit. Just do you. Number 3, step 3, which may not be practical to all of you, but it is often very helpful. And it was something that when the Arcturians, my Arcturian guides, the galactic light beings, first contacted me, they advised, is to go to spiritually charged up places and practice there. So there are certain places on this planet which are portals of energy, and the energy is pure and undiluted there. They're really helpful for you to practice, to perhaps meditate, and sometimes this energy acts like an amplifier. And by the way, it doesn't mean that you have to go to famous places, because, you know, there is a spiritual circuit of Sedona, Arizona, and the pyramids in Egypt. It doesn't have to be that. It can be places that perhaps are forgotten. Maybe there's an indigenous tribe in your area. Maybe there were ancient civilizations that worship certain sites. Maybe, you know, maybe you're just kind of walking and you feel specific kind of energy of a place. That can really, really help you. So if you have a chance to go to a place like that, that's what humanity's been making pilgrimages. Which, by the way, very often sacred sites of different religions are built on those portals. Like, I come from a place in Poland which has a very famous cathedral, and now I can feel why they built it there. There is very, very strong frequency. There's also other frequency that is to do with the particular Catholic religion that is in there, but I do believe that the energy of the place itself is very, very special. I've experienced very specifically charged up energy also in other Catholic churches in Mexico, for example. So sometimes maybe even those sacred places, no matter what is the religious background, can help you. It's also a reason why there is sacred architecture. So I would suggest that perhaps you spend some time practicing in your own way. It doesn't have to, you know, go via the steps of a specific religion or creed. You can do it your own way, but go to a place that will act as an amplifier. And my last tip for you, and this is going to be actually the strongest and backed by experience, is to be in presence of people who hold specific frequency of a gift you want to activate. This is how my own Kundalini activated. It activated via a contact with actually a client that I worked on who had active Kundalini. So I was working in his energy field with my light language and healing pain and trauma, doing what I do. And the following day, my Kundalini started rising because he was activated in his Kundalini. This is also how very often people who come to my orbit activate light languages. So, for example, sometimes I do hold specific activations with an intention to activate people's light languages. But most of my friends who are around me and my family actually also have activated their light languages just because of the frequency that I hold. So this could really be another kind of shortcut of activating spiritual abilities. Simply being in the presence of someone who has got this spiritual activity online. I had this really interesting experience a few weeks ago. Myself and my husband were falling asleep. And it so happened that my third eye was touching his third eye. We were just kind of like cuddled up. And he's a psychic. He's kind of very visual. And all of a sudden, I can start seeing all these visions, which I didn't ask for. It's almost like I was seeing through his third eye, and his own third eye was amplifying mine. So this method is something that nobody talks about, but it definitely works. And I have heard also, since I've shared this story for the first time on another platform, I've heard many stories of spiritual abilities being activated in a community, human to human. And, you know, this is actually quite cool. Perhaps, you know, when we pursue these very spiritual gifts, we're not meant to do it alone. We're meant to do it in a community. We're meant to be like a wildfire that, you know, starts with one person and then rises up to touch all the other people surrounding us. So with that being said, once you have spiritual abilities, there is one more thing that will amplify them. And this, again, is my personal experience. Once you start actually using spiritual abilities in a practical way, once you start using them to help other people, to serve other people, this is when the spiritual abilities will amplify. So with my light language, for example, I had one light language when I decided I'm gonna go out there and answer the call, because I saw lots of people online being very confused about light languages. I already had it for over 10 years, and I'm like, well, there is a need in the community to teach about light language. So I held my very first free class about light language, and there was like hundreds of people who signed up to this. And then between when I announced that class and between when I held this class, and it was maybe a space of 2 weeks, 2 more light languages activated in me because I stepped up. So the last thing to remember about spiritual abilities is that they require practice, and sometimes they like to be used in a practical way. So when you are trying to become really good, I don't know, at tarot reading, but you never actually go and read tarot for anyone, possibly your gift won't grow. Whereas if you put yourself out there, even offer it to friends or family, you will see the increase in your intuitive abilities. And same goes for all the spiritual gifts, because they are here not just like a pretty kind of embellishment. They're here for practical reason, to make our life on earth much, much easier and to serve other human beings. So hope you enjoyed this breakdown of how to activate and channel your spiritual gifts. Consider following this channel and also help yourself to other videos with light languages, with Akashic records, or other specific gifts you may be interested in. Thank you so much.